The 3Designer Export plugin is an extension for After Effects. The parameters from the After Effects composition components are extracted and mapped to objects from 3Designer by exporting them in the 3Designer scene format. The After Effects program is now open. We will create a new scene where we will use different animations, keyframes and shapes to see how they are exported to 3Designer. Create a new composition. Select the composition menu. Select the new composition menu item. This is the composition we are going to export later on, as a scene, into 3Designer. Select the preset you would like to use. Select the setting appropriate for your project. In this example we used HDTV 1080 by 25. Select OK to use the settings you need. As you can see here, I have already created a scene called Lower Third, which we are going to import into 3Designer. You can request this example scene file at support@Orad TV. Here, you can see the camera layer, and other layers that will later be imported to 3Designer. To view the scene, click the Preview Play button. Play the scene you created to verify its behavior. Let's inspect the different layers of the scene, where I will highlight some important issues concerning the import to 3Designer. Select the camera layer. Select a camera from the type list. You will notice two options exist, one node camera and two node camera. One node camera will be converted into a free camera within 3Designer. Two node camera will be converted into a perspective camera. If you don't select the camera, a perspective camera will be created by default in 3Designer when you import the scene. Set the camera settings that are appropriate for your project and select OK. Note that the scene has three composition layers: the breaking news bar, the reporter picture, and the lower third background. Select the breaking news bar layer. Select the reporter picture composition. Select the lower third background. Notice that each layer might be composed of sublayers, which makes it easier to control. Now I will select the breaking news layer. Since it is at the top of the layer tree, it is the closest to the viewer. It is always on top. I will select undo to put it back in its place. If I select the lower third background composition, which is at the bottom of the layers tree, it will be the farthest layer from the viewer point of view. It is very important to note at this point, that when you import the scene into the 3Designer, the order of the layers will be reversed. The top layer of the After Effects tree will be the last, and the bottom layer in After Effects will be first. All the intermediate layers' order will be reversed respectively. Let's examine the layers in details. I will start with the lower layer. I will now play this composition. This is quite a simple animation that is combined of three layers. The white square is the background. The small rounded animated rectangles. And the reflection effect. In order to allow 3Designer to control the animations, several keyframes were set. Here they are. The scale of the background rectangle, which sets the start point and end point of the rectangle. As you can see, it is comprised of 8 identical rectangles. Let's examine one of the rectangles. Here, as you can see, the keyframes were set for the size and rounding of the corners. When you import the scene to 3Designer, you will be able to control the same parameters. Let's examine the reflection PNG layer. Here, the keyframes set the scale of the rectangle. Let's examine the reporter picture composition layer. Here, keyframes control the position and opacity of the picture. Let's examine the reporter image. No keyframes were used here, in order to keep the image and its proportions unchanged. Let's focus now on the reporter name layer. There are 2 text layers used here, called reporter name and reporter location. I will expand the corresponding layers now. As you can see, your keyframes are used to control the position and opacity of the reporter location text, and also the X rotation of the reporter name text. The last composition to review is the breaking news layer. I will now minimize the previous ones and expand it. As you can see, also here, keyframes are used. The first one controls the position of the shining white texture image, which produces the glossy effect when moved. In 3Designer, we will be able to use this keyframe in a loop, in order to animate the shine effect. Once again, here is our complete scene. Before you import After Effects scene into 3Designer, you must check that all your layers are either flat or 3D layers. Mixing layers from these 2 types might cause serious problems like the disappearing of objects or playback in wrong sequence. Markers and exports. The mechanism that allows 3Designer to control and pass values to the scene and objects created in After Effects is called exports. We use the markers mechanism of After Effects to define the exports for 3Designer. Markers created in After Effects will be automatically converted to exports in 3Designer. We will now take a look on how to define markers for 3Designer in After Effects. I will now create a marker for the reporter's name. This will enable me to easily replace the name when the scene is played in 3Designer. When clicking on the object to receive the marker, the corresponding layer is selected as well. It is important to select the right object and layer to receive the marker. To add a marker, select Layer menu. Select the Add Marker menu item. A marker is added to the selected layer. The position of the marker on the timeline is not important. For our convenience, I will move it to the beginning of the timeline. In order for the 3Designer to relate correctly to the After Effects parameter, you must associate the correct export name with the selected marker. You can find a list of export names in the After Effects to 3Designer manual. To set the export name for the marker, double-click the marker peg. The layer marker window opens. The export names can be placed in multiple markers. The names should be placed in the flash cue point section under parameter name and should start with the caret or circumflex sign. Names missing the caret sign at the beginning are ignored. There are many exports names. You should use the one suitable for your composition. You can find an explanation of each of them in the After Effects to 3Designer manual. In this case, we use the caret text parameter to enable 3Designer to set the text in this object. Since there may be many text parameters in one scene, these exports will be automatically named by 3Designer. If you want to set your own name for this export, you must enter it in the parameters value text box. In this case, we named it reporter name. Here is another example. During the broadcast, we would like to set the place for 3Designer to upload the reporter image from. In order to do that, we will use the footage path parameter like this. Double-click the image object. I will now create the marker, as shown previously. Select Layer menu item. Double-click the newly created marker. The layer marker window opens. I will select the parameter name text box in order to type in the name of the export type that I need. I have entered the name of the export type that will enable me to enter the path in 3Designer during broadcast, in this case caret footage path. In some cases you may want to enter additional exports. For example, the image size. Remember, if you want to name your exports by yourself, write their names in the parameter value box. Once your scene is ready and the exports are set with the markers, you can export your scene to a CGD file and import it into 3Designer. Before you export your After Effects scene, remember to save it. In order to import your scene to 3Designer, you must first export it to CGD file. Before you export your After Effects scene, remember to save it. Select the File menu. Select Export. Select 3Designer CGD. The 3Designer Export dialog window is open. In the project box you see the name of the 3Designer project derived from the name of the After Effects project. The scene name is derived from the name of the After Effects selected composition. The output scene will be saved to the suggested location. In order to save your scene to a different location, click the Browse button. It is recommended that you save your scene in a folder you created under the default /projects/your folder. It is also a good practice to create subfolders to save your images. It is recommended that you name the project the same name as the folder you save it in. Once you're done, click Save to save your scene. That's it, you are now ready to import your scene into 3Designer. In this part of the tutorial we are going to cover the following subjects. How to import your After Effects scene into 3Designer. How to verify that your scene was imported properly. An overview of the layers, keyframes and object parameters that were created. Things to notice while you continue to develop your scene. The creation of exports derived from After Effects parameters. The 3Designer is now open. Before you import the scene you created in the After Effects, you will have to check a few parameter and settings. I will now guide you through them. Select Settings in the menu bar. Select Preferences menu item. Select Render Engine from the settings list. In the size section you have to change certain parameters to coincide with your After Effects scene parameters. For example, the standard parameter. Select desired standard. Set according to your After Effects scene. Select the OK button. Now you can open your scene. Select the Open button. Select your project from the Project column. Select your scene from the project. The scene opens. You can now view the layers and the compositions. Compare them to the screen capture from the After Effects that appears on the right side of the screen. We shall now take a look at the camera layer that was created. Double-click the camera layer. Select the Perspective Camera button. Select the Camera tab. Compare the parameters created by 3Designer to the ones selected by the camera settings in After Effects that now appear on the right side of the screen. The camera parameters are set by the After Effects to 3Designer plug-in, using special formulas. You can find more information about them from our support team. I will now expand the first layer. As you can see, top-down order of layers in After Effects is reversed to bottom-up order in 3Designer. After Effects composition can be built from other After Effects compositions. These After Effects sub-compositions are represented in 3Designer as the layers with an option of rendering to texture. The rendered texture is used as a texture on a rectangle in the parent layer. I will now play the created animation. Select the play button. Notice the animation keyframes. Animation keyframes in After Effects are defined in the given After Effects composition time, whereas in 3Designer they are recalculated to 3Designer main layer time domain. Let's take a look at one of the layer's animations. I will select it and select the Animation View button. Animation View window opens. Note that the Object's Visible Parameter checkbox is checked, in order for the object to be seen in the animation. However, the visibility parameter is derived out of the After Effects opacity parameter. I will close the animation view and open one of the sub-composition layers. Sublayers can have different pixel aspect ratios and dimension aspect ratios, so all contained objects have to be scaled and positioned as in the main layer. You can find information about object scaling in the manual. Of course, you can continue and develop your animations in 3Designer, such as adding ease in effect by manipulation of the acceleration parameters as seen here. Click the pink rectangle to open the animation view. Double-click the small rectangle to open the key editor. Select the mode box. Select Accelerated. You can continue and further enhance your scene by adding other effects like loops, ease out, etc. Please note that these changes will not affect your original After Effects scene, only the one that is in the 3Designer. If you import the scene again, your changes will be lost. We shall now take a look at the way exports are created in 3Designer from the After Effects scene. Select Reporter Name. When the scene was created in After Effects, both of the indicated headings were entered as parameter names. We will now examine how these parameters were created as exports in 3Designer. The plugin will convert the parameters into 3Designer exports. You can examine the exports in the Connections window. Click the Connections button to open the Connections window. The Connections window opens. Select the Export Connection tab. In the list highlighted you can see the created exports. For example, the name and title exports that set the content of the text in the scene. If we change the value of the name export, it will change the corresponding heading content. Select the export you want to change its content. Type in the new value in the value box. Select the Set button. As you can see, the name has changed in the scene as well. You have reached the end of this tutorial. For more detailed information, request the After Effects and 3Designer manual from support@orad.tv.
Thank you for taking this tutorial.